All right, if you've ever set foot in a gym, you know the debate. It's the classic argument, right? To get bigger, do you have to lift super heavy or can you go light with more reps? Well, today we're going to settle it once and for all by looking at what the science actually says. So, this is the big question, isn't it? Is grinding out those super heavy, low rep sets the only way to build serious muscle and strength? Or is there another way to get there? This has literally divided lifters for decades. Okay, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the classic gym wisdom. Then we'll make sure we're all on the same page with what strength and size really mean. Then, the main event, what the research says. And finally, we'll get practical and talk about how to build your workout and what the real takeaway is. So let's kick things off with that old school thinking. For years and years, the way people thought about lifting weights was it was pretty black and white. It was all based on this one dominant idea. And this is it. It's called the repetition continuum. And the idea was always super simple. If you want to build pure, raw strength, you lift heavy for just a few reps. And if you want to build endurance, you go light for a whole lot of reps. For decades, this was basically the undisputed rulebook in the gym. Heavy was for powerlifters, light was for toning. But is it really that simple? Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the science, we gotta make sure we're all speaking the same language. Bigger and stronger might sound like the same thing, but in your body, physiologically, they're actually two pretty distinct goals. First up, let's talk about hypertrophy. I know it's a fancy word, but all it really means is making your muscles physically bigger. Just picture a bodybuilder's physique. That is the absolute pinnacle of maximizing hypertrophy. It's all about size. And then you've got strength. See, this isn't about how big the muscle is. It's all about its output. It's the raw, pure ability of your muscles to generate force. How much weight can you physically move from point A to point B? That's strength. So how do we actually trigger that growth, that hypertrophy? Well, science tells us there are two main ways our body gets the signal that it's time to build bigger, stronger muscles. And here they are: mechanical tension and metabolic stress. Think of mechanical tension as the sheer brute force you create by lifting heavy weights. It literally pulls and stretches the muscle fibers. But then you have metabolic stress. That's that burn you feel when you're pumping out high reps. It's a chemical thing caused by byproducts building up in the muscle. And guess what? It also signals growth. So you've got two very different roads that can lead to the same destination. Okay, so now we know the how. We know the two ways muscles can be told to grow. So let's get to the main event. What happens when scientists put heavy and light lifting head-to-head in actual studies? The answer might surprise you. Let's start with strength. If your number one goal in the world is to be able to lift the absolute heaviest weight you possibly can, which path gets you there faster? Is it heavy or is it light? On this point, the research is absolutely crystal clear. There's no debate. If you want to get stronger at lifting heavy things, you have to practice lifting heavy things. It's called the principle of specificity. Your body, your entire nervous system, it adapts specifically to what you ask it to do. And this quote right here just nails it. It's from a massive review of studies, a meta-analysis published by the National Institutes of Health. They looked at tons of research, and the conclusion was just undeniable. When it comes to building pure strength, heavier is better, period. All right, so strength is settled. No arguments there. But what about the big one? The question that fuels all the debates online and in the gym. For pure muscle size, for that hypertrophy, does the weight you're lifting actually matter? This is where that old school repetition continuum model really gets put to the test. And let me tell you, the results from a whole bunch of large-scale studies have been a complete game changer for how we think about building muscle. And there it is, the big reveal. When it comes to building muscle size, it turns out that both high-load and low-load training build similar amounts of muscle. I'll say that again. Whether you're lifting heavy for 5 reps or light for 25, the end result in terms of muscle growth is pretty much the same. Just look at this table. It's from that same huge NIH study. They crunched the numbers from 24 different studies, comparing every combination: heavy versus light, heavy versus medium. And what do they find? For muscle size, in every single comparison, there was no significant difference. This completely flips that old gym wisdom on its head. So if it's not the weight on the bar, what is the secret sauce? It all comes down to one thing: effort. The key ingredient, the thing that truly matters, is training to what scientists call voluntary failure. That's just a technical way of saying you push a set until you physically cannot do any more reps with good form. Whether it takes you 8 reps with a heavy weight or 30 reps with a light one to get to that point, that is what tells your muscles to grow. Okay, so this is all great information, but how do we actually use it? Let's take this science and turn it into a practical plan that you can actually take with you to the gym tomorrow. So let's break it down. If your main goal is strength, the science is clear. You gotta prioritize heavy weights. But for just building muscle size, you've got options. You have an entire toolbox. Lighter weights are awesome for giving your joints a break and just adding some variety. And hey, sometimes high-rep sets can be a lot faster if you keep your rest short. But you know what's most important? Consistency. The best workout is the one you actually enjoy doing. So a really smart way to structure your workout is to get the best of both worlds. Start things off with those big, heavy compound lifts, your squats, your bench press, your deadlifts, to build that foundational strength. And then follow that up with lighter, higher rep exercises to really isolate specific muscles and create that metabolic stress. It's a powerful 1-2 punch for balanced development. So, we've looked at the old school rules, we've defined our terms, and we've dug into the science. What's the final verdict in this epic gym debate? You know, the real takeaway here is that we've been asking the wrong question all along. It was never heavy versus light. It's heavy and light. They are both fantastic, effective tools for building muscle. You can have both in your toolbox, and they just get you to the same place using slightly different paths. So what this science really gives you is freedom. Freedom from the old, rigid rules. It gives you the freedom to choose the methods that feel best for your body, that match your goals, and that you actually enjoy doing. So the question isn't what you have to do anymore, it's what will you choose to do to build your best, strongest self.